South Africa is known to be a batting powerhouse. In the last decade or so, we have seen some of the greatest batsmen play for the Proteas, which includes the likes of AB de Villiers, Faf du Plessis, Hashim Amla, and many more. But unfortunately, the abundance of batting talent has meant that some talented batsmen often miss out on selection or do not get a consistent run for the South African team. One such batting talent is Reeza Hendricks. Reeza Hendricks is an opening batsman who burst onto the scene in the 2008 Under-19 World Cup. Although he could only score 132 runs in 5 innings, he did manage to top score for the Proteas with 35 in the final, which came in a losing cause. His first breakthrough season came in 2013-14 when he scored 317 runs in 9 innings at an average of 45 in the South Africa domestic T20 competition. This led to him being picked in the South African squad for the series against Australia in 2014. He made his T20I debut in the first match of the series at Adelaide, but unfortunately for Hendricks, he was dismissed for a 3-ball knock on debut. Things didn't get any better for him as he scored 22 ball 18 in the next match. Despite back-to-back failures, the South African selectors persisted with him for the third match. Reeza showed some sparks of brilliance by scoring 3 boundaries in an over against Duke Bollinger, but other than that, he struggled a lot to rotate the strike and laboured his way to 49 and 48 balls before being dismissed. So the stats of Reeza's debut series read: 3 matches, 67 runs and an average of 22.6 and a strike rate of just 91.7. Surprisingly, the selectors decided to back him for another series. In the series against West Indies, Reeza could only score a run of ball 12 in the first T20I, which led to him being dropped from the playing 11 for the second match. But he got another chance in the third match as South Africa had already lost the series by then and wanted to test their bench strength for the dead rubber. And he did not disappoint this time as he scored a 32 ball 42 in that match. But unfortunately, Reeza Hendricks had to wait for another 2 years to play for the Proteas. This was because Hashim Amla and Quinton de Kock were the designated openers in white ball cricket for South Africa. This meant that Hendricks had to spend the next 2 years on the sidelines. His next opportunity came in the series against Sri Lanka in January 2017. His comeback was a decent one as he scored 41 of 34. But the following series against England in June was far from ideal as he scored just 10 runs in 3 matches. His next chance came in early 2018 against India, where he scored a 70 in the first match but failed to make an impact in the final 2 matches. But Reeza's T20I career did not have the ideal start. His ODI career was off to a dream start as he scored a century on debut versus Sri Lanka in October 2018. Although he did not cross double digits in the next 4 matches, he made up for it by scoring 240 plus scores and 250s in the next 7 matches. He continued being in and out of the team, but finally got a consistent run from February to March 2019. This was Reeza's first real breakthrough moment in T20Is as he scored 350s in 6 matches. This, along with his ODI form, meant that he was well on track to be on the plane to the 2019 World Cup. But right before the World Cup, a string of low scores in the Sri Lanka series, along with Aiden Markram scoring 542 runs in 5 matches at a stunning average of 108 in the South African Domestic One Day Cup, led to Markram being picked for the last 2 matches of that series. An unbeaten 67 in the last match ensured that Markram was picked for the World Cup ahead of Hendricks. It was a heartbreaking moment for him. After years and years of disappointment, when he had finally managed to score runs consistently, just a couple of bad matches meant that he had to wait for 4 more years to play in cricket's most prestigious tournament. The next domestic season wasn't great for Hendricks as he averaged below 30 in the one-day competition. But Aiden Markram's inconsistent performances meant that Reeza would get to play in a few matches in the white ball formats. But the familiar problem of being inconsistent would continue to haunt him for the next few years. 2021 was a much better year for Hendricks with regards to T20I as he racked up 540 plus scores in 11 matches. But Temba Bavuma and Quinton de Kock being the regular opening pair meant that Reeza had to warm the benches for the first few matches of the T20 World Cup. But de Kock's controversial exclusion for the match versus West Indies meant that Hendricks was selected for that game. He scored a handy 39 on his T20 World Cup debut, which meant that he retained his place despite de Kock returning to the 11 in place of Hendricks Klassen. But his performances took a dip in the next 3 matches as he scored a total of just 17 runs in that phase. Ever since the beginning of his international career, the plethora of batting talent has kept Hendricks out of the playing 11. But Bauma's injury in mid-2022 meant that Hendricks was given a long run. This was probably his best chance to show the selectors that he deserved to be in the team. And so he did, as he scored 4 consecutive half-centuries before the T20 World Cup. But unfortunately for him, Bauma's return from injury meant that Hendricks was back on the bench for the following series versus India and the entirety of the T20 World Cup. The Proteas crashed out of the group stage in the tournament. A lot of questions were raised on the team and the management, but the biggest of them was, why wasn't Reeza Hendricks given a single opportunity despite being in excellent form? the World Cup gave the selectors a reality check. Bouma was replaced by Makaram as a T20I captain and was dropped from the team. This opened the doors for Reeza's selection of the team. He enjoyed a short but fruitful run in 2023 as he scored 3 consecutive half-centuries for the Proteas, but that wouldn't satisfy him. His main aim for that year was to make it to the ODI World Cup squad. He knew that Bouma and Quinton de Kock would be the regular openers for the tournament, but the slot for the reserve opener was still wide open. Yaneman Malan was mysteriously dropped from the team despite his good performances, and Aiden Markram had cemented his slot in the middle order. This meant that Hendricks was all but certain for the World Cup as a reserve opener. He played only 3 matches before the World Cup in that year due to the presence of the regular openers. He scored 119 runs in those 3 matches, which was enough to seed his spot for the World Cup in India. As expected, he started on the bench. But half an hour before the game against England, Bouma informed the team that he was unwell and hence was not available to play the match. So just 5 minutes before the toss, Reeza was informed that he would play in place of Bouma. And since South Africa would bat first, he had to immediately pad up to open the batting. He knew that this might be his final chance of the tournament, so he was determined to perform on the biggest stage. Perform he did, as he scored a 75-85 to set the Proteas up for a huge score. South Africa won that match by a huge margin, and Reeza Hendricks was one of the reasons for it. As Bouma had not recovered, Hendricks got another opportunity against Bangladesh, but could score only 12 in that match. And as Hendricks was walking off, he realized that it might be his final game of the tournament. As Bouma recovered in time for the next match, Hendricks was expectedly dropped from the team. Post the World Cup, Reeza has played in a handful number of matches and scored a decent number of runs. A couple of 40s in the T20 against India showed that Reeza is still a very good player, but that has been the story of his career. One bad match would often lead to him being out of the team. Despite being in good form, he would be warming the benches. Reeza Hendricks is still a part of the white ball squads, and with Quinton de Kock retiring from ODIs, it means that he would most probably be the replacement for him. With Bouma's below average performances in the T20Is, Reeza might as well be in the starting 11 for this year's World Cup. But with how his career has gone, it still isn't a certainty. Whether he will get a consistent run in the future would depend on the selectors. All we can hope is that he gets the opportunities and the recognition that he deserves. With him recently playing in a couple of T20 leagues such as the PSL and the BPL, it is evident that franchises do recognize his talent. This World Cup would determine if Reeza Hendricks is really the opener that South Africa would possess with. And if he does perform, it would probably be the greatest moment in his long but unfruitful international career.